This is Guardian Radio, your station for up-to-the-minute news and intelligent, interactive, and engaging conversations. 96.9 FM. The views and opinions of the hosts and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the views of the management and staff of Guardian Radio.
You're listening to Talking Heads with Naughty and Mary Jane. Only on Guardian Radio, 96.9 FM.
Lord have mercy. Oh, well.
Talking Heads with Naughty is brought to you by Burger King, the Cancer Treatment Centers of America, the Central Bank of the Bahamas, the Cleveland Clinic, Duty Free Caribbean, Easy Car Sales, Fine Threads, Grand Bahama News, John's Department Store, Joker's Wild, KFC, Naughty Johnny's, NRG Nutrition, Percy's Island Games, Prince Masters, and Tropical Gyros.
The work goes for so long on them plantation, and me never get paid.
You've got it locked and loaded to the Wednesday, December 11th edition of Talking Heads. Your boy Naughty and your company right up until 6 p.m. along with Mary Jane, MJ.
Good afternoon.
And it's, like I told you, everybody who's been hitting us up on the Facebook pages, on the phones, yes, we have none other. Our very special guest today, the leader of His Majesty's Loyal Opposition, the leader of the FNM, Mr. Michael C. Pintard. He's going to be joining us live. Normally, you know, we take it. Listen, I already talked to the sponsors. Be going right in. All right, we're not going to waste a minute of this. So I'd like to welcome to Talking Heads. No stranger to Talking Heads. It's been a while, but glad to have him back. Like I told you, the Honorable Mr. Michael C. Pintard. Welcome. How are you?
Thank you very much, Naughty. Appreciate the invitation. And, of course, to your talented, gifted co-host.
Welcome. We're so happy to have you. And so I'm thankful that you made time to just speak with us today. And more importantly, speak to the Bahamian public, especially since so many things have been happening recently that definitely deserve to have your voice a part of the conversation. So thank you for being here.
My pleasure.
All right. So listen, I have to ask you, Mr. Pintard, what, in your recollection, in any past lives of yours, have you done the Speaker of the House something or some injustice? Can you even remember any past lives, possibly? Because she certainly has an axe to grind with you. You know what I mean?
No, I don't think it's actually personal. The Speaker and I thought enjoyed a decent relationship over the last 3 years. In fact, I've said to her on more than one occasion, and I've said in a public space, that I didn't share the view of a number of persons when the criticisms began with respect to the Speaker and her suitability for the job. And the quote that I use to describe her, to describe myself, is a quote from Drake. And I know in the music realm that may be sacrilegious right now. But there's a line.
But I know you know when and where to use Kendrick Lamar, so it's all good.
Started at the bottom, now we here.
Right.
And so I use that phrase because, you know, sometimes the help get to be in charge, that fate would have it, that God's intervention would have it, that you actually running organizations where you did for individuals or for the organization itself. And so one of the conversations I had with her was about that I don't take any issue with her or my humble beginnings because through hard work, working smart, and the grace of God, you can emerge. But what you do with that opportunity is what will ultimately define you and determine whether or not you ought to be in whatever chair you end up in. I've just been disappointed that her having been given one of the three most powerful positions in the country, that is the leader of the legislature, which insulates her, which protects her from being dictated to or bullied by the executive of the country, that she has failed to create the separation of powers to honor the tradition. And the tradition is that while the majority will have its way, the minority must be protected to have its say.
So let's start with today, because many Bahamians watched earlier this morning when yourself and 5 other members of your caucus were suspended from participating in events in the House of Assembly, and that includes today's sitting and the next sitting, I do believe, that will happen on January 15th. In that happening, you have the voices of thousands of Bahamians unable to be heard in our House of Assembly. Just walk us through how you felt learning that you would be suspended, and what do you think about the decision of the Speaker and the rest of the House to make such a move today?
I thought again, it is an example where the Speaker has surrendered the independence of the Parliament to the Prime Minister and the Executive, and so today is only a snapshot. The reality is we have to look at the whole movie that they've been cutting for the last 3.5 years, 3 years, and that is in this particular case, the Speaker sought to use as the basis for her decision the letter written last week before last
Right.
To her, and she pointed out technically why she determined that we had not ticked all the boxes that allowed us to speak. Well, first of all, there is the letter of the law. There's also the spirit of the law. It is customary that whenever tributes are being given to national figures, that the government side has a person who leads that tribute, and the opposition also has a person that does it. Generally, it's the leaders of both party, or a minister, the leader, and whoever they may designate. The member for Golden Gates actually paid tribute to women during our celebration of women's contribution
I
to the
recall
country.
that, yes.
And she did so not on behalf of the Ministry of Public Service, not on behalf of the Women's Caucus in the Parliament, but on behalf of the Women's Association of the Progressive Liberal Party,
Right.
who are not in the House. So at a minimum, the opposition should have been given an opportunity to pay tribute and make comments within that context. Secondly, it has been customary when there are matters of immediate public importance that when the government speaks, that they extend the courtesy, and in the absence of them extending the courtesy for the opposition to speak, the Speaker can go ahead and do so. So that's whether a letter comes or not. We have had occasions where I've been granted an opportunity to speak after the Prime Minister. Let's fast forward to last week. Last week, she could not find technical details to disqualify me from speaking, because we followed the procedure with even greater diligence. She got the letter a day in it, the remarks was attached, et cetera, et cetera. She did not reference that today.
Right.
She sought to speak to 2 weeks ago, and even more so, the Prime Minister invited the leader of the opposition to join him in a discussion about who will be the new commissioner of police. That alone, on that basis alone, I should have been given an opportunity to rise to my feet and to respond to what was a public invitation. But twice now, the Prime Minister has addressed the very same issue, a matter of immediate public importance, and the opposition has been prevented from speaking on that subject. So we see clear bias. Let me just pivot to something else. The second thing that was disturbing is that both the Prime Minister and the Speaker were dishonest in their characterization of how Sergeant of Arms Penniman was injured and how the Deputy Speaker was injured. The
Okay.
entire world can see the footage and clearly see that no member of our caucus had touched them. In fact, they were seeking to prevent the member for St. Barnabas from throwing the mace out of the window. And then officers who were not invited by the sergeant at arms, who can deputize them, rushed into the house. So, and you could see one of the officers, we presume, accidentally hitting the deputy speaker, pulling all persons who were away from the window, which is how they got two of them got on the ground. And before I even walked over to help up my colleague and to help up the officer, who none of them seemed to have been interested in helping out. So just that kind of lie that they would put on the international and local record in order to score brownie points, saying that we were overly aggressive or they chose the word violent, is most unfortunate. They misled the House. Unfortunately, this is not the first time the Prime Minister, but it is most disgraceful what they did.
Let me ask you this, because this is a question that a lot of Bahamians have. Do you think that what's happening, not allowing you to speak, the prior week, last week, and then having you suspended today, do you think that this is an intentional kind of intent to have the opposition be, silenced?
I mean, think about it. We are suspended. The six of the seven members of the opposition who consistently we oppose decisions that the government make that we do not believe are in the best interest of the country. We hold them accountable for delivering on promises they made to the Bahamian people, and we are suspended. Think about that in this context. What is it that we could possibly say that worries them? Because we are being suspended
that was my next question.
At a time where the reputation of the country is being savaged. Some 80 or so media houses around the world have picked up the story of the allegations against Bahamian law enforcement agents and government officials. So we are paying a huge price in the international community for what is termed by some to be systemic corruption. No less than the former commissioner of police used that term for at least 40 years. So what they are seeking to do is to silence us as we talk about potential solutions for the systemic corruption and trying to halt this slide that the country's reputation is taking. We are getting a beating in the international community. And I would think that a prime minister, deputy prime minister, minister of national security and cabinet who are well-intentioned, they would want these matters clarified as urgently as possible so that people do not believe that our institutions are inherently or to the core corrupt. Secondly, they would want to protect the reputation of the country. And so we said there's some simple things they're able to do that allow us to protect the reputation. Rather than being aggressive with us, they need to be aggressive fighting corruption. And so what could they do? One, they could have fired or asked for the resignation of the commissioner. That small step has been taken care of. Second, they ought to fire or ask for the resignation of the Minister of National Security. Both he and the former commissioner presided over a period of time where we have had record-setting amount of murder and escalation in serious crimes. There have been numerous scandals within the institutions that come under their portfolio. So it's either they are incapable of issues or they are unwilling to take those issues seriously and see that we have a crisis and enlist the help needed to solve them. Either one of those two options is bad enough for them to go. Thirdly, they need an independent body that would be established in order to examine police complaints. The police should not be able to investigate itself. And remember, I raised this before in previous debates. And was shot down as being unreasonable, as not respecting the public servants who were in those organizations. Now, even the government is attempting to introduce a piece of legislation that does just that. Wayne Munroe previously claimed that we already have an independent oversight body. Well, clearly he misspoke then because he was the one moving the resolution to introduce this bill. And then fourthly, and I'll stop there, we need an independent commission of inquiry that has qualified persons who are independent of this politics, both locally and internationally, with international skills and track record in investigations, with authority to call for persons and papers, to conduct a vigorous investigation, and to recommend a course of action that should be taken once we get all the evidence in. This government is deathly afraid of any independent commission of inquiry. They were afraid when we called for a select committee on immigration to examine work permits, permanent residence, citizenship, do an audit of that and see how they are being distributed and whether or not the minister has interfered with the work of the director of immigration, the deputy director, and violated the law. Deathly afraid. They were afraid of the FTX investigations, which is why no comprehensive investigation has taken place in the Bahamas, where FTX, part of their offices exist and where it collapsed. They were deadly annihilation of Bahama, and now more significant than any of those, they are not interested in investigating thoroughly the accusation of some law enforcement, and we believe it's a minority, as well as some government official and others working together to move drugs and ammunition through the Commonwealth of the Bahamas to the United States. What are they afraid of?
Mr. Pinto, let me ask you this question. I know you've been a strong, champion for a Freedom of Information Act and a Procurement Act. Obviously, as being head of the pack, I see sometimes that you seem to be handcuffed by red tape and moving goalposts. How committed, and I think a lot of Bahamians want to hear this answer, how committed are you and the FNM, if you become the next administration, to enacting a proper functioning Freedom of Information Act and ensuring that the Procurement Act is put in place? We've heard a lot of talk about it on the campaign trail from previous administrations and this current administration. What can you speak to that moving forward?
We are absolutely committed. The only thing that is required now, or certainly the primary thing, according to the Information Commissioner, is the government has to allocate the remaining resources required to get the infrastructure up and running. So if there's a to allow for ease of processing requests for information that the public is allowed to have sight of, obviously there's a financial contribution that's needed from central government to solve those technical problems. And the government is unwilling to obviously do that. They also need to put in place the pilot programs in the 6 ministries that were mentioned. And again, they are unwilling to do that. That's straightforward. Why would I be better qualified than the Prime Minister to do that? Well, my own track record in my time in government. I've worked in 3 different government ministries. I've worked in actually more, because I've worked as a consultant in Ministry of Economic Affairs, in the Ministry for the Public Service, and as a minister, I worked in Ministry of Youth, Sports and Culture, and then Ministry of Agriculture and Marine Resources. In both cases, we developed a culture in those ministries that was not tribalistic. We employed Bahamians of all political stripes and persons who we met in place who were known to be supporters of the Progressive Liberal Party were not moved out of sensitive positions so you could put in place some folks to keep some secrets. We kept qualified public servants in whatever positions they were in order for us to get the work of the people of the Bahamas done. So we're somebody who has worked on ELP campaign during the cycle before the election, is in all of the meetings because they are director of communications, and they could see and hear things the average employee or public doesn't see, because we are not discussing skullduggery. We're not trying to scheme with the Bahamian people's money. We are not trying to enrich ourselves. And so I have a track record of working on behalf of Bahamians of all political stripes and working with Bahamians of all political stripes to get work done. I don't think the Prime Minister has the capacity to make that kind of statement with any degree of conviction. And so we support that. The Procurement Act, similarly. Sometimes governments may want to single source a contract, that is, give a contract to a particular company or individual. Well, when you do that, there is prescribed in the law a process that you go through to do that. And one of the things you must do is justify why you're doing that. But when you have numerous contracts, 20, 30, 50, 60 plus million dollars being single source without justification, without competitive bidding, we have no way of knowing whether the Bahamian people are getting the best product or service from those companies, because they had no competition when they were chosen. And so, again, we will behave differently than this administration. Lack of accountability and lack of transparency. That's the hallmark of the Davis Cooper administration.
Honorable Opposition Leader, if you look at the headlines in the papers today, you have The Guardian saying, PM, our reputation unfairly tarnished. And then there's some reporting in the Tribune where Honorable Prime Minister, when he made a stop and spoke with pastors yesterday, actually and this was kind of a surprise to me. He played a CBS News recording where dozens of U.S. law enforcement leaders, including sheriffs, captains, lieutenants, were allegedly caught buying and illegally selling firearms across the U.S. states. So I think we are seeing sort of a public relations campaign emerge where there's a bit of deflection going on with respect to the indictment that was handed down and that put us in a bad light. And I think to counter that, they're trying to show other persons in a bad light. What are your thoughts on our reputation globally? The Prime Minister's stance that it's unfairly tarnished, and then this move to kind of like deflect onto things that are happening in other countries.
Well, the Prime Minister is in part responsible for the slide in our reputation. We said when the FTX debacle happened that the Prime Minister needed to move with a sense of urgency in order to speak to what measures have the government of the Bahamas taken to guard against bad actors in our financial services sector. The Prime Minister was slow and flat-footed in getting his team together to speak locally and internationally to the measures we took and how others may have circumvented the measures that we put in place. The second thing he had an opportunity to do was to say that no member of his team received any funds directly or indirectly that was being accused of fraud literally around the world. They refused to speak to that issue. And I said both sides should say how they have benefited and under what circumstances, because you have to rule out in the minds of the public that the way they were able to avoid regulatory oversight is that they had been given special privileges or exemptions by people who they were friendly with. The Prime Minister failed to act under those circumstances. We learned later that there have been personal kinds of relationships established between members of his government and the now found guilty Sam Bankman-Fried. And the same thing occurred in the case of immigration, where the minister was being accused of issuing special favors through immigration for either personal or political gain. We wanted those accusations cleared up because we don't want any official to be accused falsely. The minister promised to speak, he never did. The Prime Minister, we found out, was informed of the director of immigration concerns about the minister overstepping his bounds to the extent of, in their view, violating the laws of the Bahamas. The Prime Minister's most vigorous intervention in that situation was to find out how did the information get leaked. He was more concerned about the whistleblower than he was concerned about his minister's investigations, where lives have been lost. In the case of the airport heist, to the indictment that we presently have, again, the Prime Minister has not shown that he is single-minded in his focus to unearth the truth. Again, and I don't believe this indictment is as serious as the explosive voice notes that where Bahamian law enforcement and persons who are part of the judicial system, the criminal justice system, are being accused of collaborating with criminals. Because that situation has in fact resulted in no less than 6, quite possibly 7 homicides since that robbery took place. That should be alarming for the entire nation. Should be alarming for government officials.
Do you think
and yet the Prime Minister and the Minister of National Security haven't been moved to deal with this?
I was going to say, do you think that investigation is taking too long to come to some sort of conclusion that they can present to the Bahamian public? Is it taking too long?
We think so. Oh, definitely. The public thinks it's too long.
Right.
In fact, what is amazing about this is that whoever the shooters are, they believe that the government and its organs are so ineffective or are so friendly that they are able to look for their targets while the country is in shock over what has happened. Imagine that 2 victims died related to the same case, and the shooters have very little concern. They're continuing the hunt for additional persons who are associated with this matter. knowing that the country's attention is trained on it. Well, the country's attention seemed to be trained on it, but not those who are responsible for the serious investigation and apprehension and dealing with this issue. And that is worrisome. So the last thing institutions in our country and law enforcement to be seen in a negative way. Like people start looking at them sideways, because we believe the majority of public servants, the majority of police officers, defense force officers,
Absolutely.
customs officers are law-abiding citizens doing the right thing, living righteously. But the handful that's on a different run, that are bad actors, we are not doing enough to weed them out.
All right, it's time for our first break. Our special guest today here on Talking Heads, Mr. Michael C. Pintard, the Honorable Mr. Michael C. Pintard, the official opposition leader of His Majesty's Royal Opposition, and of course the leader of the FNM. Candid conversation so far, which we appreciate. We will pick it up on the flip side of the break. Text us, we have your text. Call us, we see your calls.
That's
we'll open
a
up
lot
the
of them.
lines toward the end of the hour, and then Mr. Pintard answer a few questions for you before he gets out of here. And we also have some texts to get to, so we'll pick
we
them
have
up on the
a lot
flip
of
side of the break,
texts.
as well as some questions for you, Mr. Pintard, via the text lines coming up on the flip side of the break. So give us a couple of minutes, and we'll be right back on the flip side of the break.
Wonderful.
Right here on the
Thank you.
Wednesday, December 11th edition of Talking Heads, which continues right after this.
And all those books you stole away, all those kids you led astray. Wait on your judgment day. Bobby wrong, me bona fire, pana we got Babylon and the
Play making dreams come true. Play with Island Games. We paying more out to you. Don't mind the noise in the market. You getting cash in your pocket. 'Cause Island Games is spicy and spicy is tradition. So when you play Island Games, we putting Bahamians first. Guaranteed to pay. Island Games. We like them other jokers. We've been here from the start. From the bike to computer. Island Games. We gonna make your dreams come true. We playing with Island Games.
Bring flavor home for the holidays with a KFC Festive Feast. Create timeless memories with a $20 KFC Festive Bucket, brimming with 8 pieces of your favorite fried chicken and 4 buttery biscuits, or decorate the dinner table with a mega Festive Bucket featuring 8 pieces of juicy chicken, 4 biscuits, a large corn and mashed potato duo with a side of gravy, and 4 of our new pumpkin dessert biscuits. Crunch the holidays however you want and let us do the dishes. KFC Nassau, it's finger-licking good.
Refined style with elegant taste, then fine threads is your place. If you want those slacks hemmed or just taking the waist, then fine threads is your place. If you wanna look suave and debonair everywhere you go, like you're supposed to be in a video, wanna step out and look great, then fine threads is your place. Refined style with elegant taste, then fine threads is your place. Is your place. Is your place.
Cancer Treatment Centers of America is now creating one of the leading cancer care and research networks from coast to coast, providing more of what you need. More locations means more care closer to home. More specialists means more expertise. More research means more breakthroughs. More advancements means more treatment options. And more options means more hope. Learn more at cancercenter.com.
You're listening to Talking Heads with Naughty and Mary Jane. Only on Guardian Radio, 96.9 FM.
Lord of mercy.
We're back at you on the Wednesday, December 11th edition of Talking Heads. Your boy Naughty along with Mary Jane in your company right up until 6 p.m. And we continue our conversation with the leader of His Majesty's Royal Opposition and the leader of the FNM, the Honorable Mr. Michael C. Pintard. And Mr. Pintard, like I said, I have a few questions for you off the text lines, which are overflowing. The phone lines are blowing up. Listen, we will get to you. We'll open up the lines. We'll get to that in a second. But here's one for you. Good afternoon, Naughty. Good afternoon, MJ. And, of course, good afternoon to Mr. Pintard. I think most Bahamians would rather see the PM in addressing the matter of corruption, specifically ask for what I think is the first time to say to the public that he would use the full weight and power of his office to conduct a sweeping audit of our law enforcement agencies, and that he has already authorized an investigation into the allegations of a member of our government being involved in illegal activity. But maybe his statements might lead the State Department to reveal on their own the name of the alleged criminal government official.
So that's an interesting tax. My question to you, Honorable Opposition Leader, do you know who the high-ranking political official is that is possibly hinted to in you?
I would put it this way. If I were in charge of the country and this had occurred, I would move very swiftly to identify whether that person is in the parliament, in the cabinet, or some other government agency. Because the longer you take, you allow members of the public to then fill that vacuum with their recommendations, their thoughts on who that person is.
And we've seen that.
My last count, they probably up to double figures now. And is it not worrisome that the public can come up with a list of ideas and thoughts on why it is 1 through 10 or 1 through 12?
That is a bit disturbing.
They got a dirty dozen.
Because every other day, somebody has a new name
and justification.
With what they consider compelling. Exactly.
And the irony of it all is,
it's this person.
Right.
And the irony of it all is that if you actually look at some of these things swirling on social media, these allegations, some of the connected dots aren't too far off. They're doing a good job.
So the prime minister has a duty to protect those members of parliament and cabinet who themselves are living righteously, but whose names are being sullied and savaged because people are speculating. So it doesn't necessarily mean that if somebody has campaigned for you or worked closely with you while you're getting your ratification, that their hands are around you, guiding you into a hall, a PLP hall, where the prime minister is on the stage, and you could see that person, the candidate, and the prime minister in one frame, and that person is now indicted. It doesn't mean that that member of parliament is involved with what that person is indicted for, but my God, it don't look good.
It looks
right,
good.
And so that is the case. As I mentioned before, that is the case with a recently ratified and elected official, right? So wouldn't it be good to just clear that official's name to say, notwithstanding that it seemed that one of his chief supporters, who delivered him to no less than the CEO of the country as a suitable person for election, that all of us do not know what people are doing in their private lives. We take pictures with people all the time who we do not know and don't, right? However, we are duty bound to, again, clear persons who are now being accused, and in some cases, but it has to be in some cases falsely, because it can't be all of those names that people are calling being guilty.
Oh, absolutely. Here's a question, though, but because the Prime Minister did speak about this initially in Parliament some weeks ago. When he first talked about the indictments, he did say that he was sending a diplomatic note, that he was requesting more details about the unnamed Bahamian politician from the U.S. I think the note went to the U.S. Charge d'Affaires. And up to reporting yesterday, our Minister of Foreign Affairs told reporters that the government is still waiting for a response from U.S. officials. What should we make of that? Why does it appear that the U.S. is less than speedy to be forthcoming with this person that was hinted at in those indictments? What should we make about that and the relationship with the U.S. right now?
Why would you be surprised that the Minister of Foreign Affairs, after about 3 weeks of the revelation of the indictment, is still waiting? Apparently, they were waiting for 3 years for the U.S. to talk to them about this investigation that they're going on. 3 years and 3 more weeks. Really?
Well,
they don't trust them.
They're in no rush.
Clearly, the United States officials do not trust this administration. We want to understand why. And the Prime Minister can skirt as he likes. What he ought to do is to speak to why the U.S. officials have been able to have extensive investigations within our jurisdictions and outside of our jurisdiction on persons who are known to multiple policymakers, known in a social sense, known because some of them have done business with the government. Some of them are, in fact, actively doing business, have recently received contracts from the government. And that's why I keep asking the question, is the government prepared, is the Prime Minister prepared to say that there are not persons who have signed contracts with them on more than one occasion who are persons of interest to the police as well, locally and internationally? Is he prepared to say on the record? because clearly he knows of persons who are of interest. Clearly, policymakers know of persons who are of interest to the police locally and internationally, but who signed multiple contracts. That's very different than persons who are given a second chance. Second chance has to do with, I used to be in a life. I used to be about that life. Now I've changed my life, and I deserve an opportunity as a new person to get opportunities in my country. And I support that. I support second chances. I don't get what run you were on. You make an adjustment. Hungry mouth still got to feed. Your family still got to eat. Communities that you benefit still have to benefit. And therefore, you're given second chance. But if somebody is still about that life, how do you justify signing on multiple occasion contracts with them? And now some persons end up being indicted.
The former.
What did you know? And when did you know it?
Right. The former Prime Minister, Dr. Hubert Minnis, who's also a former leader of your party, made a curious statement today, as far as I'm concerned. He said that either our current telling the truth or he was not informed because he, along with others, are being investigated. That's quite the explosive comment for him to make. But in terms of just the optics of all of this right now, I know that you have called for the Minister of National Security to be relieved of his duties. I know that you have called from before this for a commission of inquiry. For those that feel that they want more details, can you justify why you have made these calls and the reasoning you think that this should happen in the best interest of the country?
Again, one of the comments I made earlier is that imagine you have presided over law enforcement for 3 years. During your tenure, you have been tasked to solve what is possibly one of your biggest jobs. One of your biggest jobs is to work with other stakeholders to reduce the amount of crimes in general, but violent crimes in particular, those that result in death.
Right.
But for several years, you have broken records. The number of homicides have increased. And you were slow to recognize that we had a crisis. In fact, you even denied that it's a crisis. For a small country like this, with one of the highest per capita homicide and sexual assaults on the globe, and you do not believe that there's
absolutely.
a crisis, you are clearly out of touch.
Can I say that
out of touch and tuned deaf.
Even as a Bahamian
Yes,
woman,
please.
I'm more fearful these days than I have been in a very long time. Just to even be out certain places at certain times, it's not a good environment for a lot of Bahamians right now. We're very afraid of crime and being, victimized.
Correct. And if you are presiding over the organization and you are not effective in causing those indicators to slow and then go in the reverse direction, you're clearly not qualified for the job. Secondly, if there are multiple scandals which speak to a organization, and culture simply means the things we do in the ways that we do it that define who we are, right? So you are in charge of a culture that is problematic for the execution of the job. And so the question is, are you an agent of change that can help change the culture of the organization you preside over? Apparently, no. Clearly, the minister and the commissioner were not. And so why should you continue to hold a job where you are having negligible to no impact on the culture? It means then that the historic and systemic corruption that you have seen can only continue and get worse in light of the fact that in 3 years, you have had negligible to no impact. You cannot have multiple officers implicated in rapes or robbing citizens. And we know it's a small group. The majority of law enforcement are honest. They've made sacrifices to serve the rest of us.
Now, Mr. Pinto,
so we should protect their reputation. And when I've heard a name being called as a potential commissioner of police, we are deputy commissioner of police. We can't wait to see if that individual is confirmed, because you can't be serious about wanting to clean house. And then the very persons who have multiple contracts with government agencies whose names have been called on the streets as one of them, you are considering elevating. That is a problem. At some point, we have to get real as a country and say, listen, some things, some people are not suitable for. They could serve the country, but in different ways. But it can't be in that way. I know the areas that I may not be suitable for. And thank God you have the self-awareness to say, well, I offering for that thing because I ain't the one. Right? But so the prime minister has to choose the correct persons to show that he is serious about cleaning house. And there are some good names that he ought to utilize, but apparently a number of them are just continually passed over.
All right, Mr. Pintard, we're going to have to get to the lines because I know you'll feel the few
Sure,
calls.
no problem,
and
man. No problem.
And I have several texts that I need to get to. So let me get you the text. I ask them as quickly as possible for us so we can move on.
No problem.
All right. And awesome contribution so far. But we're just working a little bit against time. Great show as usual, Naughty. I think Mr. Pintard is going to inherit the sins from this past government if he's elected. So he will have to clean up the reputation of the Bahamas. How is he prepared to do so?
Again, you want to put it together a team that is prepared to go into various agencies and to clean house. Persons who are being appointed to run agencies ought to be vetted, and part of that vetting should be from a select committee that will ask the tough questions, and members of the public be given an opportunity to provide information, much like when you go to get married. Is there anyone here who have cause to know why this man and this woman should not be wedded together? Again, so one, you have to clean institutions. Secondly, you must be aggressive in speaking to the international community and clarifying false information that's being also put out there. And so those two things are important: changing the culture of existing organizations and putting in place the right personnel. And secondly, speaking to an international community who sometimes...
Question for you. Naughty, ask your guest, ask Mr. Pintard, if elected, if his administration will implement capital punishment.
Again, we have said clearly we support capital punishment. It is on the book. No, we do not intend to get rid of the Privy Council on the criminal or the civil side. We believe that justices, whether they're in England or in the regional court or in our high courts, have similar sensibilities. And so the executive, the parliament, has to look at how do we redefine the worst of the worst. And then secondly, how do we come up with sentencing guidelines that can assist when somebody is convicted of murder, while at the same time not robbing justices of their discretion.
All right, here's another one for you. What are Mr. Pintard's thoughts on making forensic audits on all sitting and past government leaders mandatory? Does he see that as a means of keeping the House and Senate honorable?
We presently have public disclosure provisions in our law. We are just not doing a good job. The gentleman who's in charge of disclosing who has met the deadline ought to, again, publish the results on an annual basis of all of us who have not, again, disclosed our revenue. And so we need to be more vigorous in hitting within the structure we have now, the financial details of members of parliament and other senior government officials, all of us who are required to report. So we have mechanisms we could use. Today, Naughty, we're not using them.
All right, let's get to the phone lines. Talking Heads.
Good afternoon. I'm calling from Stevenson, Exuma.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Exuma.
Good afternoon.
Afternoon.
Yes, I'm calling from Stevenson, Exuma.
How are you? Go ahead. What's your question?
I'm fine. I want to say, good afternoon to my leader, Mr. Honorable Michael C. Pintard.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Okay, let me explain. Last week, I was down to the down on Bay Street, and I saw what happened, what the police officer did to my leader, my deputy leader, and my other faithful men and members. They need to come to the public and apologize what they did. Because it really is embarrassing what they did, and it's all over the world. And then the Speaker of the House, she really needs to understand that she is speaking for the Bahamian people, not only for the PLP. So she's making her own party looking bad and stuff like that. So my leader is doing a good job, putting his feet on for the Bahamian people and his party. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you so much. Great to hear from you, Exuma. A quick question, Honorable Opposition Leader. First of all, since this has been out there, was the events of the last week where the base was thrown through the window of the House of Assembly, was that a pre-planned event or was it something that was just spontaneous?
It was not a coordinated event. the determination we made before coming in the House is that we ought to have our say, and we don't see why they should have a say if we can't have a say. So that's our mindset with this administration. That they have the majority, they can have their way, but we ought to have our say. But in terms of specifically that act, no, that act was not coordinated. And if it was, we wouldn't have been afraid to say so. I mean, really, we don't duck and dodge like these fellas. We don't at all. So no.
Were you or any of your colleagues injured when you were escorted out of the house? I mean, you seem to have been roughed up a little bit.
Multiple persons had to go and get examinations from the clinic, from doctors, persons who had back pain, or et cetera, et cetera. But a number of us, we didn't complain. We didn't try to do what the Speaker and the Prime Minister did, which is they sought to mislead the public that we had something to do with two public servants who were injured, and injured by persons who rushed into the Parliament to be extremely aggressive. So we didn't complain. We didn't complain about the injuries that were inflicted on our members, but we know that officers, a number of them, they were extremely aggressive, more aggressive on us who terrorize in this society.
Before we get back to the phone lines, I have two questions for you. If this is a person one, how did you all finally remove the flag from Mr. White's hand? Was it surgical, or did he?
He had it today.
All right. Second of all,
he still had it.
Lonnie, Mary J, listen, the most incredible saying that I've heard is those persons who said, if you hold me, I
agree.
I want you. That is so. Bahamians are extremely creative
And talented.
So
yes, absolutely.
all right. Here's one for you. Naughty, please ask Mr. Pintard, if elected as the next administration, is the governor or his administration going to audit immigration to verify the passports issued over the past 4 years?
Yes, one of the things we said during the call for a select committee on immigration, which this government defeated that request. We moved that resolution in the House, and one of the things we said, and I was very specific on this matter, that we will audit work permits that have been granted, permanent residencies and citizenships. And here, very briefly, here is why. We know that in this country, there's a whole category of workers who are called consultants, but the real term is they brokers. There's a group of persons who seem to be able to get 10 work permits before the workers even show up. And they could then determine how they dispense them. It appears as if there are persons who could earn the citizenship. We want to audit and look carefully. And this is why a select committee is necessary, because with a select committee, we want to know how persons were able to get some of these, benefits of being in the Bahamas, particularly when there are reports of illegal, unethical actions that allowed it to happen. And so, again, yes, an audit will be a part of what we do.
Let's get to the phone lines. Talking Heads.
Good day, Lady MJ.
Hey, how are you?
Naughty.
How are you? Got to make it quick for me because we're almost to time, and I need to get a couple of calls in. So go ahead, shoot. You got it. Go.
I'm a schoolmate, Michael Penda.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
good afternoon,
I want
sir.
to know if you can call for them to open an investigation with that King Air and that $2.5 million, because we like to know, I want to know where that King Air is today. Okay? Hello?
So you said the
Yes.
$2.5 million? Which
They passed the
$2.5
Parliament
million?
for the King Air.
For the airplane.
Where is the plane?
All right. Yeah,
the
the
King
King
Air
Air.
airplane, correct.
Yes.
He wants to know whether or not you would open an investigation into it.
Without question, we said in Parliament when we raised the question, you would recall, we were the persons who raised it in the public sphere. We want to understand how did they arrive at that figure. I mean, Bahamians are so smart; they quickly Google a refurbished airline of that type. How much does it cost? We heard the government change its tone multiple times on the same subject, in much the same way they changed their explanation on the $300,000 that was alleged to have been spent on the expensive vehicle the Prime Minister had, notwithstanding the fact that he had other expensive vehicles already that he could have continued to use. So yes, we will investigate that. We also want to investigate the airline, the police craft that we understand is in Florida. We want the track record of how often it used to go to Florida for Florida for servicing, which officials tended to accompany it or happened to have been in Florida accidentally or incidentally or coincidentally during the same time the flight was over there, etc. So there's lots of things related to airlines. We're still trying to understand how much money did the government actually spend when they went to Bermuda, and have they repaid all of the funds, and why no heads roll when they misappropriated funds, that is, use government funds for purposes other than what it was designated for, which is misappropriation. So how do you take Treasury funds and spend it on a political venture and there are no consequences?
All right, let's get back to the phone lines real quick. Talking Heads.
Good afternoon, Naughty. How you doing?
I'm fine. How are you?
I am wonderful.
All right, make it as quick as you can. Go ahead.
Leader, Michael Clifton Pintard, who is a Miami Dolphins supporter, as you know, Naughty.
Oh, my God.
There we go, Dolphin.
Under his leadership as Prime Minister of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, the Miami Dolphins will win a Super Bowl.
Well, after this administration instituted that Dallas Cowboy program, and Mr. Cooper went over, we won a home game in 8 straight. So, yeah, they got the poison PRP touch put on them. So I might have to pull for the Dolphins in 2025. I never know.
Listen, let me say this. I love it, but I must tell you, I'd love to see Lamar win a Super Bowl ring.
Whoa.
So right now, I'm telling you, I would love to see the Baltimore Ravens come through.
I'll tell you something right now.
Better get that clip.
Well, listen, that's one vote. That's one vote you may not have to worry about. My oldest is a huge Lamar Jackson fan. On that alone, I think he might vote for you.
He'll be 18 next year.
Oh, man.
All right, let's get to the other calls, man. Good stuff, sir. Talking Heads.
Good afternoon. How are everybody?
How are you?
We're good. Good afternoon.
Okay. Great leadership team from the FNM. I just have one question, Mr. Leader. When are we going to see the potential candidates? When are they going to come through?
We intend in the first quarter to roll out several of the candidates, and over the first 2 quarters, we hope to have the bulk of them in the field. We believe there is going to be an early election in 2025. We don't know which month. This is why I support fixed date for elections. I think we ought to have a real national discussion about that and to move in that direction. But early Q1, quarter 1, quarter 2, we'll be rolling out a number of those candidates.
Honorable Opposition Leader,
chairman of an association, please continue to work even in the absence of knowing who your standard bearer is.
Are you available to go over just a little bit into the 5 o'clock hour?
60 text messages. We got to get through some of these.
They
Thank
have
you
it.
so much.
Callers will get to you right after the news.
Callers.
You two hold, and we'll get to you right out of the gate after the news. Texts will come to you.
Yes,
Mr. Pintard, thank you so much. This is the Wednesday, December 11th edition of Talking Heads, which will continue right after this with our very special guest, Opposition Leader, FNM Leader, and Leader of His Majesty's Royal Opposition, Mr. Michael C. Pintard, right after this.
Wait on your judgment day. Bobby wrong. Me bona fire pana we got Babylon.
All I do is win, no matter what. Feeling lucky? Here's Cuban Willie's numerology report. Brought to you by the Island Game.
Wepa, soy Joe Cuban Willie. It's Wednesday. It's the hump day. We're going to get over the hump together with my lucky 3-ball in my numerology report brought to you, of course, by the Island Game. And today's number in the 3 pelotas, 8, 1, 7, 8, 1, 7. That's your 3-ball, your lucky 3-ball from me, Cuban Willie. Play it and win with the Island Game. Stay winning, my friend.
Naughty Johnny's restaurant can only be described as the experience you want to recreate again and again and again. Their motto is simple food done well. You're welcome into their home at Naughty Johnny's, where you can dine on crack conch fritters, and other Bahamian favorites. There's also an international flair that's guaranteed to offer something for everyone. Enjoy a good meal and listen to a live band on their patio Friday and Saturday nights, or brunch on Saturday and Sunday, only at Naughty Johnny's restaurant in the Old Town Plaza, Old Fort. They're open 11 a.m. till 10 p.m. Monday through Thursday, 11 a.m. to 11 p.m. Friday, 10 a.m. to 11 p.m. on Saturday, and 10 a.m. to 10 10 p.m. on Sunday. Naughty Johnny's. Well worth the
John Shoes and Accessories is your one-stop shop for all your footwear needs. You will find what you're looking for among the growing collection of classic and trendy styles with new arrivals every week. John's covers the whole family and has great prices, helpful and friendly customer service. Your experience shopping with us will be time well spent. Shop with us online at www.johnshoes.com. John's also now carries small home appliances, so come on into John's, located on Rosetta Street in Palmdale and Carmichael Road West. John's, we put fashion at your feet.
Around the world, Cleveland Clinic is recognized as a leader in healthcare. Our team of experts relentlessly pursues the best for our patients. From groundbreaking cancer research to state-of-the-art heart surgery, life-saving innovations happen here every day. When it's time to travel for your health, it's time to travel to Cleveland Clinic. Your destination for care, for every care in the world. To learn more, visit clevelandclinic.org/Caribbean.
Bring flavor home for the holidays with a KFC Festive Feast. Create timeless memories with a $20 KFC Festive Bucket, brimming with 8 pieces of your favorites, or decorate the dinner table with a mega Festive Bucket featuring 8 pieces of juicy chicken, 4 biscuits, a large corn and mashed potato duo with a side of gravy, and 4 of our new pumpkin dessert biscuits. Crunch the holidays however you want and let us do the dishes. KFC Nassau, it's finger-licking good.
You're listening to Talking Heads with Naughty and Mary Jane. Only on Guardian Radio, 96.9 FM.
Oh, we're back at you on the Wednesday, December 11th edition of Talking Heads. Your boy Naughty along with Mary Jane and your company right up until 6 p.m. We have our special guest going over just for a little bit into the 5 o'clock hour. Leader of His Majesty's Loyal Opposition and leader of the FNM, the Honorable Mr. Michael C. Pintard. Glad to have him back on the show. Very candid first hour. We're going to continue right now. Let's get to the phone lines first. Get these calls out of the way, and then we have some more questions and texts from Mr. Pintard. Talking Heads.
Good day. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Go right ahead.
Yeah, good day, Naughty, and to your guest, Mary J.
Hi.
And to the leader of the opposition and the Bahamas. Mr. Pintard, Mary J., the guest there, is asking some very, very good questions. And a lot of the questions that she's asking is what I would like to know. But it appears that you are skirting around those questions and you're not asking them directly, but you're giving a story which we're not interested in. I'm interested in knowing the answers to those questions that she's asking. Can you answer them outright, number one? And secondly, it appears that you are very aggressive when you were in the house where you were protected, but you seem to be very temperate and mild-mannered on the show. I would expect for you to have the same manner, while you're here on the show, because I want to know how, I would like to know how accurate your stories are in making the accusations that you're making. So if these stories are extremely accurate, that you are shouting out in the House of Assembly, I'd like for you to do the same while you're out on a radio show, national radio show, because I want to know that that what you're saying is accurate and that you're not afraid of someone suing you for making false allegations.
But caller, let me ask you a question. Indictments from the Southern District of New York are actual and factual, regardless of what Mr. Pintard says. I mean, you are aware of that, correct?
I am aware of that.
So, I mean, that shouldn't be an issue, correct?
Well, it is an issue because...
So you're saying that the Southern...
I'm not talking about the indictment. I'm not talking about any of that because, in my humble opinion, whoever is guilty, may the law take its full course with them. And I believe that we need to clean up wherever there's corruption in this country. I totally believe that it needs to be cleaned up. But my thing is, when accusations are being made and being hurdled in the House where there's protection, I would hope to see the same because I want to know how credible these accusations are. So I want to know if you are able to make these same accusations on a national radio where there's no protection, and because I need to know the accuracy of it.
All right, thanks for the call. We're going to let Mr. Pintard answer.
Let's give him a chance to respond. Honorable Opposition Leader, do you want to say anything to that?
You're muted, Mr. Pintard. Unmute your mic.
Do we have him back on the...
It's
sorry,
Mr. Pintard,
I cannot say made in the House of Assembly that I've not made in a press conference or on this show or other shows. And that's why I wanted to ask the gentleman if he could please identify a particular accusation that I made in the House or question that I raised in the House that I have not already raised on this show. Or elsewhere in the public domain, because honestly, I cannot think of any. I'm consistent and have been for the decades I've been involved in public life. I mean, I never scared. So I don't really understand where that question would come from. I mean, he must have just tuned into the show because I thought some fairly damning things were said already on this show. Again, I'm at a loss.
Yeah, specificity, caller, because we're not quite sure exactly what you mean. Let me run through some of these text messages quickly.
Callers will get to you.
The lines are full. We'll get to you in one moment, but we have so many texts. I feel bad not getting some of these in. So this texter says, so the 6 members will be delayed and not denied because we know they are coming back roaring like a lion. Another texter says, good afternoon, Naughty MJ, my favorite talk show host. I love this person. And my leader, Mr. Pintard, waiting for the election to call so we can get rid of this allegedly corrupt PLP. Another texter says, I think the government is most upset because there's no way to expunge last week's incident from the record, as they have spent the past 3 years trying to sanitize their record in the Hansard. Another texter says, tell him BPL bill is the worst of the worst. Even he will agree on this.
Amen. Hallelujah.
Another texter said, and I think another texter says, he that is good at making excuses is hardly good for anything else. This applies to the PLP chairman, government ministers, and all PLP operatives. This texter says, Naughty MJ and Mr. Pintard, good afternoon. I think charges should be brought against those officers who treated them with such abuse. Keep it up, Mr. Leader. And this texter says, when will we hear about what will be done to employ young people who are on the outside, on the skirts of the workforce, working with minimum to very low pay or have business opportunities for them to do? So let's focus on that one, because I think that is a good one to just pivot a little bit. What do you say to the many, many thousands of young Bahamians who now find being middle class getting harder and farther from reach, who see, getting a decent paying job as being harder and farther from reach, and who just getting a job in general see that as being very difficult right now? If you were to assume the reins after the next election, what would you say to them, and what kind of policies would your government put in place to help so many Bahamians who are suffering right now?
One is there are a number of jobs are being carried out by persons who have traveled from halfway around the world. We need to ensure that we are giving Bahamians every opportunity to be on those jobs. For example, the project that is being developed in East Grand Bahama at the moment, I'm in talks with a number of the persons who have influence relative to companies that are doing work there. And it is our hope that we will soon launch the job fair to give a number of Bahamians who are suitably qualified an opportunity to not only work with their company in that area, but on some of the other family islands, because it is untrue that there aren't persons with the skill set required to fill some of the vacancies presently filled by persons from halfway around the world. So we have no problems with people coming in at the blue or white collar level, but Bahamians should not be displaced in the process. Secondly, we left in place a program that provided $50 million of grants to persons who had interest in starting or expanding their businesses. This government has appeared to move away from that. We've asked them to document for us where they have come up with at least $50 million per annum towards small grants that would be administered, assisting persons in expanding or developing new businesses. We believe that we need to find ways of doubling the grant money A portion coming out of the government's grant, the other portion coming from venture capitalists, many of whom angel investors who are out there and willing to partner with government to assist in startups. And then finally, within the context of the public service, we had a program in place that persons who had a degree should not be languishing when we could have found ways of employing them in areas where they are needed. We should not use the government simply to hire consultants who are not adding value to the public service and doing political work on government time. Every minister, for example, ought to provide that list of consultants they have hired. What were their qualifications? What is their salary scale? And what is the return on investment? So those are a few of the things that we ought to do. And I finally say to Bahamians, try to get into one of our tertiary institutions or one abroad so that you can develop skills. And when you enter the market, you are entering at a different level and not fighting just for entry-level jobs.
All right, I have another one for you off the text lines, Mr. Pintard. All right, Naughty, your very intelligent wife, tell me about it, beat me to the punch. But if we're calling from Mr. Monroe's resignation, what about Mr. Rodney Moncur, who's also one of these well-paid crime consultants? What's Mr. Pintard's take on that?
I have said before, we should look at every consultant, determine what their scope of work are, and measure whether or not we are getting bang for the buck. And if we're not, no one should be off limits. That's reality. So I wouldn't focus on Rodney Moncur. I said we are spending upwards of $175 million a year on consultants. We want to know what services they are providing, and we want to know what is the return on that investment.
So let me ask you this question, Mr. Pintard, because I'm curious about the name of the high-ranking politician. If that name is revealed and it happens to be a member of the current administration, I do believe that the calls for an election will grow louder. If that name is revealed and it's a member of the former administration, then it would almost be political malpractice for this administration not to go to a snap election because the scandal would be, so much. Are you and your party prepared for an election no matter when it's called? I know we say 2026, that's tentative, but with our system, an election can be called anytime. Do you have the 39 to 40 persons ready to go into these communities and ready to stand and have their names on the ballot should this administration call a snap election?
We have not less than 100 persons who have indicated interest in running. At least 90 plus have gone through the training course, if my memory serves me correctly, and there are others who are clearly interested but have to tidy up the transition out of their company, given the role that they are playing in their company, as well as some of them are senior public servants who are interested in transitioning out of the public service and joining or providing their service in another arena in the country. So yeah, we are making ready. We are confident that whenever the government calls the election, we will not have a problem with not only having candidates, but having that is in terms of cabinet ministers who this public respects and can see them running different aspects of our national life. And so we are confident. We expect the election to be early. We believe that the Prime Minister is embattled. You could hear today they sought to they sent out a clarion call for their supporters to come out, and unfortunately they were challenged in much the same way they were challenged going into St. Barnabas. I said if they were able to attract 300 persons in an area and surrounding a constituency where they enjoy tremendous support because they won those seats. If they could have produced 300, that would have been amazing. But clearly, they have not been able to do that in a black belt area. That's because the average citizen recognized that the PLP talks a good game about helping the average person, about empowering the common man. But unfortunately, their policies are strangling it. The cost of living is extremely high. BPL, which is being privatized by this government in a way that is most unfortunate, with a view of lowering the cost, they have not succeeded at that. So for 3 years, they have continued to raise the price. They went to ERCA, asked for permission to do so. The cost of electricity went up as a result, and we don't see any light at the end of this PLP tunnel.
All right.
That's why I believe the torch is important. So again, they are failing in terms of addressing the cost of living. We still want them to take the taxes of bread basket items. They should be zero rated. Feminine products, medication, food for struggling Bahamians. They are strangling businesses with the fees, levies, all of which add up to taxes. And again, we have measures that they are taking when the Revenue Enhancement Unit and others go out, accompanied by officers who are armed in companies where they could check those companies' records from a computer. Does this person have a track record of evading taxes? Do they have a track record of robbing the people of the Bahamas? The answer is no. So any particular reason why you sending people out strapped? You know, what's going on?
It was very Gestapo-like.
It didn't look right.
Let's get to the phone lines real quick. Talking Heads.
Hey, Naughty.
How are you?
MJ.
Hey, good afternoon.
So it's good to be able to call this show for the first time with my leader, Michael C. Pintard, on. Two things, Mr. Leader. The psalmist, 23rd Psalm, yea, do I walk through the valley and the shadows of death, I will fear no evil. The other one is, the Egyptians you see today, you will soon see no more. Mr. Leader,
amen.
You and your team continue on to doing the people's business. The people are depending on you all and those who will come in when that time comes to bring a change in this country, because we believe that the time has come for new leadership, young minds thinking to take this country to beyond the 21st century. And I believe that you and your team are prepared for it. And I believe by God's grace, His mercy will allow you to be able to become the next Prime Minister of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, because the time for that change must come, the unstoppable change.
No problem.
Have a great afternoon.
Thank you for the call. Let's get to the other call.
That call had me humming in under my voice. No retreat, no
surrender.
Finish it.
No lotion, pet, no powder. For real.
We got it.
I like that one. Let's get to the next one. Talking Heads.
Yeah, good afternoon, good evening to everybody, the panel, MJ Naughty, and
good evening.
You know, hey, Michael, you don't have to call my name, but we come from S.C. McPherson, right? He the person who really know you. He's saying your demeanor changes, man. He don't know you was ever biggity, you know. I mean, like, you was always placing the standard for people, but let's get on with the people's business now. My question to you is, right, as a concerned citizen, and for decades we have seen the amount of dubious injustices, especially the shootings, right, by officers, right, but no independent
I'm not hearing the gentleman clearly.
Hang on.
One second.
One moment.
Bring 52 up so Mr. Pintard can hear him. He's not hearing him clearly.
The opposition leader can't hear him.
Hello.
Is that better now, Mr. Pintard?
Hello.
I can hear you clear. Yeah. Okay.
Hello.
Can we bring the caller up a little bit more?
Hello.
52. Can you speak a little bit louder? The opposition leader, Mr. Pintard, cannot hear you.
Yeah, well, I just wanted to bring a question. Is I really don't like the Bahamian people being insulted, especially the inner city youths, as it relates to dubious shooting. We saw many dubious shootings, and in particular, let's talk about the one in Dunnortage, in which the eyewitness was a 9 or 10-year-old, and his account was discredited altogether. And there's never any independent ballistics report. And we saw cases like Azario Major and other cases that are being adjudicated, and an officer went on the run, et cetera, et cetera. But how serious is the government taking these things, given the fact that a lot of youths have lost their lives because lack of cameras, and we went according the gospel, according to the police, which is really, it shouldn't be. And then the insulting narrative is there's only a few bad apples. My God, come on, man. Let's do better than that. Bless up. Yeah.
All right.
Thank you very much, caller.
Good stuff, 52
So
as always.
are you all able to please just repeat the question? It was going in and out on my end, please.
52 had some questions regarding, some kind in the inner city pertaining to young men that was shot. Obviously, police-involved shootings as well. And obviously, what has come out of those cases. In addition to that, he also said, you long time. You ever been biggity from school time, and you always defended people.
I'm so misunderstood. I like to use the word mischievous. People that use other words.
All right. I got another question for you. Caller, I see, and I'll get to you in a second. Naughty, please ask Mr. Pinto.
Naughty,
Yes.
Naughty, I'll answer the question he raised, because that is a serious question once you get back from the next caller.
No, go ahead. Answer the question, Mr. Pinto.
Yeah, no. Again, one of the things we commented on when we talked about the culture of the police force is the number of cases the coroner has sought to refer for the DPP to make a decision concerning prosecutions. And so we have not shied away from making the point that while we celebrate the majority of our officers, the reality is there have been so many different types of instances where I believe where the minority group on the force have made illegal or unethical decisions. And so a part of protecting the reputation of the majority is addressing the issue when there's been an unlawful killing, or when there has been a sexual assault, or when there has been a robbery of a citizen by any member of the uniformed branch or politician. So again, we don't shy away from the subject. We are careful not to paint everybody with the same brush,
Right.
but we are not shying away from calling a spade a spade. So I entire adult life living in New Providence, I live over the hill. I grew up in Angliston and Coconut Grove, and then Yellow Elder. I spent several years in Mount Pleasant. I lived for 12 and a half years in Step Street, Foxhill. So I understand the challenges that exist over the community, and I understand when the system has failed people over the hill. I believe the present leadership has been so removed from the day-to-day struggles of our people for so many years, they do not feel the afflictions of the sufferers. That's why they can't come up with policies that seek to transform people's lives, to help people put light and water in their house. It is disgraceful that in 2024, there are still so many Bahamians without basic infrastructure in these communities where we have consistent PLP representation. It is a shame.
All right, I have one off the text lines. Caller, I see you. You'll be our last call for today. Naughty, please ask Mr. Pinto why he's so tentative about capitalizing on these recent events. The PLP is good at opposing, not as good as governing.
What recent events? I'm lost by that. What do you mean?
I don't know what the text is referring to.
We've addressed each
because there's been many.
Them which recently we have not shied away from any events. We have been vocal consistently on these matters. And so I'm not. Again, I keep hearing.
I'm going to ask the text to be a little more specific and Pacific on that one, so I know exactly what events.
What events?
All right, here's another one for you. Good afternoon to the leader. A shout out to my ground Bahamian sister MJ. My Pioneers Loop family, and you, Naughty. Okay, thank you, brother.
Okay, shout out to Pioneers Loop.
My question is for the leader. After such a strong showing last week, why did you yield to the actions today? I fully expected to make more of a challenge.
We didn't yield. We didn't yield to the actions. The suspension took place. We believe that the public is smart enough to see that this government is attempting to silence the voice of the Bahamian people and silence the opposition. And we will continue to raise our voice in multiple forums in order to educate the public about the bad decisions this government is making, to call them out on the fact that they are not conducting the transparent investigations, either because they are incompetent or because they are complicit. Either way, they are unsuitable. And so, no, we no retreat, no surrender. So we're not surrendering to anything. In fact, we're taking legal advice in terms of the actions they took last week and the decision that they made today. So when the House break today, they did Naughty and MJ.
They went to lunch at the British Colonial Hilton. I noted that because the leader. And I was like,
I noted that. They can't be serious. We're discussing serious issues that have life and death implications, and they went to lunch. And when they come back, I can assure you they will not have a full sitting on day one when they come back. But we will not rest in terms of raising the issues and pointing out and asking them the question, why are you so afraid of investigations? Naughty, they love to raise up this issue concerning Bacon and Nygaard, right? Every time you get them, their backs against the wall, they shout out some nonsense, right? I say, listen, you all in power. Why don't you all do a commission of inquiry on that thing? Let's see how that one run. Let's take the leader of the opposition and the prime minister, both of whom are intimately familiar with that matter, and let's see how that thing run with some international as well as national figures who are respected with good investigative skills. Each of us will remain standing at the end of that kind of inquiry.
My final question to you.
Ask him if he's ready.
My final question to you, Honorable Opposition Leader. So I think what a lot of this conversation that we've been having in the past few weeks boils down to is transparency and accountability. At first, I wasn't sure if we needed a commission of inquiry, but as of recent, I have firmly gone into that corner that absolutely we need a commission of inquiry. I asked this question earlier. I just want to circle back to it a little bit. Can you justify for us, even in light of the Prime Minister, our Prime Minister saying that, we don't have the resources to conduct a commission of inquiry? And I listened to the National Security Minister, the Honorable Wayne Munro, earlier, and if I were to just parse his position, he's just not really interested in that. He doesn't, recognize what a public good it would be to have a commission of inquiry. So can you justify for us why you have called for a commission? And despite the Prime Minister saying that we don't have the resources, it is something that we should move forward with.
Yes, a recent study, I believe it was by the IDB, indicated that crime's impact on the economy is in excess, the negative impact is in excess of $100 million. When we fail to address corruption, when we fail to address crime, there is an economic toll that it takes on an economy. Investors are not interested in coming into your country if they believe you're not going to be governed by laws, but there could be political interference or there could be an influence on the judiciary that prevents being dealt with fairly and evenly for locals and investors. Street justice is an outcome or result in a large measure because many people do not believe that they can find justice within the system. They take matters into their own hand. I can give multiple examples of why it is in our interest to know the truth as to whether or not there's systemic corruption in the security forces, in the public service, in the parliament, in the private sector. It is in our benefit to answer that question because those that are considering doing business in the Bahamas, they don't want to do business where they feel attorneys are going to overcharge them or go into client accounts and use money. They don't want to feel as if the system is slow in responding to applications because somebody is waiting to be greased in order to move the process along.
Man, lunch got to buy, Mr. Pindar. Lunch got to buy.
The wheels of the system only turn by grease. I understand that. And so again, why do we need a commission of inquiry? Well, one, because a commission can have the scope where you are able to call whistleblowers and in some cases protect them. That is people who have inside information of how the system is being corrupted or misused. So the mere fact that you can have this as one component, protecting the whistleblower, will be a step in the right direction. There are people who themselves have been involved in criminality. And if you can provide some of them immunity so that they can tell you how the deed is done, how the criminal acts are carried out, how the country is being sold out at the airport or on a vessel tasked with policing our borders, they can tell you who they had to pay in a particular government department to get a particular thing done. A commission of inquiry will do that more effectively than any mechanism that we presently have. In addition, the Prime Minister is traveling around the world talking about the need to join with the Mexicans to sue gun manufacturers to prevent the inward flow of guns into the Bahamas. His credibility is on the line. I would think he would be at the front of the line wanting a commission of inquiry so that we could know who are the players facilitating guns and drugs through the Bahamas, so that when he goes on the international stage and talking to a collection of world leaders, they are not looking at him sideways because they have seen the reports that suggest that some member of government in the Bahamas, as well as law enforcement, which he presides over, may be culpable or responsible in part for the movement of contraband or weapons through the country. He would want to clear that up. It is in his and our collective interest that we have a commission of inquiry.
Let's get to
where
the phone.
there are powers to call for people and places to make recommendations around issues of prosecution. This is a necessity. The system as it is not adequate in getting this done.
All right, let's get to the phone lines real quick. Last call. Talking Heads. Talking Heads. All
Did
right.
we lose that caller?
If you
Can
wanna
I ask a question for
Go
that
right
caller
ahead.
then? This is the last one, Mr. Pintard. Speaking
No
of
problem.
our honorable prime minister, he made some comments that I find to be interesting as well. He said, according to an article in the Tribune, that the U.S. isn't aware of local political parties, but sees the Bahamas as just a little black country. Any thoughts on those comments from the prime minister?
No, I would have to understand. The context
Yeah.
better, but I would only say this: the prime minister has a PhD in deflection. The issue at hand that he will not be allowed to run from is that there are accusations about systemic corruption in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, which he has the honor and privilege of leading. It is his job, since he knows that there is a cost to us, an economic cost, a reputational cost, that he has an obligation to do all within his power to remove the cloud from over our head, and where corruption does exist, to change the culture. And so what investigations would reveal who is involved, how the corruption is being executed, and then putting in place the right persons, regardless of their political persuasion, who have the ability to create a new culture. He should govern for all Bahamians. And so it means that if somebody is wearing red or yellow, none of us should give them a bly if they are damaging the country for all of us. They may even be relatives, but we have a duty of care to protect our country. And so the prime minister, unfortunately, is not leading the charge in this regard. This is why he is not qualified to continue to run the country. This is why he is embattled within the PLP. There are persons who are now looking, they are hovering over the chair that he sits in to see if they could replace him, because their prospects of winning another term is diminished with him in the chair. The final thing I would say in this regard is this. I represent Marco City. We serve all Bahamians, no matter their political color. We collaborate with stakeholders because there are some smarter people out there than those of us that are in the chair, and benefiting from their input will help us serve Bahamians better. And furthermore, we deliver on projects that we promise in the community. So you could see our footprint after only 8 years, let's say 7.5 years. The Prime Minister has represented Cat Island for, I believe it's somewhere in the vicinity of 30 years. And if Columbus come back, they'll still recognize parts of the constituency that he represents, because he has failed to put significant footprints in that constituency that has so many brilliant Bahamians who hail from it, who want to return home, who want their children to return home. It is only now that he is hustling and rushing to see if he can get something completed before he exits the political stage.
Mr. Pintard, we'd like to thank you very much for going over, obviously, for being on the show today, and obviously for going over, because I know you're very busy, so we definitely appreciate that. But obviously we have to do this again, because overwhelming phone lines are still lit up, and the text lines are still lit up. So we definitely need to do this again. So whenever you want to have some free time, please let us know so you're next avail. All right? So we can get you back on.
Thank you.
It has been a
Thank
candid.
you very much. And
Now,
thank you very much. And I look forward to joining you again.
Now I got one question for you. A lot of people from Red Wednesday last week said they were galvanized, that you galvanized some people. You've awakened some disgruntled voters that were on the sidelines for the last 2 elections, sitting on the sofa. Some have jumped up already. Some are ready to go. What about those who are halfway up now? Off the sofa, ready to take a step, but thinking about it, how do you maintain that momentum? What do you have to say to those folks that have not been politically active, that have now awoken due to the actions of you and your colleagues last Wednesday?
We are going to stay the course, and we're going to be relentless in holding the government accountable. And so we ask you, if you have information, if you have grievances that is not being addressed, reach out to us. We will seek to be responsive, and we are prepared to challenge the government. We'll work with the unions in order to address the concerns that the Bahamian people have. In the private sector, we are collaborating with faith-based organizations, private sector groups to address concerns and issues that the Bahamian people have. We ask you to keep the faith. Look at our track record. Look at a number of us, what we have been doing in public life, in our private lives. You can trust this team that we have in place to work on your behalf. We recognize that you are our employers. We also ask you to get involved, because whenever you see gaps in national governance, it may be because you have not stepped forward to fill some of those gaps. And so we are interested in working with you, and there is room under our tent in order for us to work together to help solve some of the issues that face our people. We ask you to keep the faith, give us an opportunity to serve you with humility. We promise we ain't coming into teeth. This is not a come up for us. This is not a stepping stone as Ryan Pinder used it to go into the private sector and look for lofty opportunities. We are running because we are interested in serving you. You are our first choice, not second choice.
All right, and with that being said, I think it's only fitting that we go to the break with this song right here. We dug in the crates for you, man. We heard it mentioned it a couple of times, so, I blew the dust off this Terra Fabulous, No Retreat, No Sir. Thank you for being on. MJ wants to thank you for being on.
Thank you, Honorable Opposition Leader, for spending time with us today.
And we'll do it again the next available opportunity you have. Thanks so much, and God bless you and the fam. All the best.
Thank you. Take care.
Lotion this year, anything is weak. I don't in a wheelchair on the good jump like a stallion, kick like a mirror. Then I go matter me still not go kill. It's like Terra Fabulous, find extra gear. Things don't for no sign, for finish sign you. That's why no retreat, no surrender. When I lotion, pet, or powder, we tell them no retreat, no surrender. When I lotion, pet, or powder, not to a man that left a little pipe I give you. Yes, we say your body, you a wicked something happy. You hold the plastic up where you are dealing with, and I threaten people. I give them 9 days to leave. Police wanting for this, they wanting for that, they wanting for the man with dead at hilltop. Hey, Mr. Big Man, you better think first. To how you are going is like your blood touching all. No retreat, no surrender. When I lotion, pet, or powder, we tell them no retreat, no surrender. When I lotion, pet, or powder, I'm say you little boy a long time me I want. Keep your mouth locked, keep yourself calm. I know everything you hear. You fit talk back, boy. Don't you know so you will get turned back. Deep in your skin, with people in a green. So how the hell you are come this system and I play like you're tough. You're not back from nothing, but you're sad. Now you're in a mess and trouble. I know assassin or suicidist. It's a mission to kill a fabulous. I go do it, that's why. No surrender. When I lotion, pet, and powder, we tell them no retreat, no surrender. When I lotion, pet, or powder, I'm so to push it up. We tell them push it down. If you taste fabulous, me know say blood I go run. One Terra Fabulous, me the lyrical tongue. Anything to see you.
Are you dreaming of an EV? Now is the time. Easy Car Sales is offering unbelievable deals on 2024 models with end-of-year discounts. Plus, quick and simple in-house financing makes it easy for everyone to go electric. Take a test drive and experience the thrill today at EV City on Abundant Life or Gladstone Road. Step into a smarter, more affordable drive with Easy Car Sales, your trusted EV and warranty provider since 2016.
Play with Island Games, we making dreams come true. Play with Island Games, we paying more out to you. Don't mind the noise in the market. You getting cash in your pocket. 'Cause Island Games is spicy and spicy is tradition. So when you play Island Games, we putting Bahamians first, guaranteed to pay. Island Games, we like them other jokers. We've been here from the start, from the bike to computer. Island Games, we gonna make your dreams come true. We playing with Island Games.
The Grand Bahama News is available every Tuesday in the Nassau Guardian. You can buy your local paper at Freeport convenience stores, Western Bakery, De Gregory's Fine Foods, and Bellevue Gifts. Now is the time to reach your Grand Bahama market with affordable packages, including print and digital. Call GB News sales representative Kavandre at 822-6717 or message him on WhatsApp for ad rates. Classified ads are now available every Tuesday as well. Keep up with everything Grand Bahamian every Tuesday in the Nassau Guardian.
NRG is nutrition. Check out our world-famous smoothies, signature quinoa dishes. We have the best salad and breakfast fit for a king and his queen. Open for breakfast, lunch, and now and the highest quality ingredient and is nutritionally balanced. Visit any of our 3 locations. Old Fort Bay, open until 7:30 p.m. West Bay Street and Gladstone Road in the Monrose Complex, open until 4 p.m. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook at NRG Bahamas. NRG, nutrition ready to go.
You're listening to Talking Heads with Naughty and Mary Jane. Only on Guardian Radio, 96.9 FM.
We're back at you on the Wednesday, December 11th edition of Talking Heads. Your boy Naughty and along with Mary Jane in your company right up until 6 p.m. Pearly zooming in right now. We got some picks to get in. What's going on, Pearly?
Pearly.
Just listening attentively.
Listen, man, you're one of the greatest of all time. Let me just tell you that, all right, Pearly? And one of, still not on the list higher than me, but one of. Listen. Did you get to take in what the leader had to say? The leader.
I listened to the whole interview. I thought it was well done. Touched on a lot of points. Good questions by MJ. Good questions, Naughty. The callers and the texters gave you some good questions. I thought it was a really good interview.
I think so. I think Bahamians appreciate.
Talking Heads always have the best interviews anyway. So I mean, what can I say?
There you go. Shameless plug, but it's all good. It ain't lying if it's you know.
It ain't bragging
if it's true. There you go.
Right.
It ain't lying if it's true either.
Obviously.
All right. Well, we got a short, compact set of picks for you tonight, Pearly. All right. As you know, it is December, and the grand drawing for the Island Game NFL Takedown is up for grabs. That's the all-expense-paid trip to the Super Bowl for 2 in New Orleans. Real easy how to play. You still got the rest of the month to play, and it's real simple. Simply log on to theislandgame.com. Set yourself up with an Island Game account. They're going to give you some bonus bucks for setting up that account. Take a $20, make it a single game run. That's how easy it is.
I'm surprised you didn't have the shameless plug of the big pickup your Yankees made yesterday. First.
Well,
But anyway,
I wanted to do that in depth tomorrow or Friday.
Okay.
I know, but
we can do that. Not a problem.
Excuse me. It both is a rotation though. Garrett Cole and Fried back to back. That's not easy, bro.
Yeah. That's going to be nice.
And we had the rookie from last year.
But that's pretty good.
No, that's a pretty good pickup right there. Let's get to the phone lines real quick.
Pickup for you guys.
Let's get to the phone lines real quick before we get to the picks. Talking Heads.
Hey, what's going on?
Hey, what's going on, Skiller?
Everything good. Listen,
Hello.
I didn't really call to talk no sports. They just can listen to you and Pearly. But I really called to touch you because I joined to touch you from last week.
Right, I know you got that event going on. I'll call you when I get off here, man. I've been busy and I've been dealing with a couple of things with Pops and myself, so it's been up and down. But I will definitely get to you today, and we'll make it happen. Okay. However I can help, I got you. All right?
Yes, sir. Okay.
All right, be safe, bro. All right, Pearly, we got 2 games tonight in the NBA. NBA's been kind of light this week.
Going on.
Huh?
NBA Cup quarterfinals.
Yeah, I know. It's just like a light night. It's boring. I like to see 8, 9, 10 games in the NBA. 2 games.
Yeah.
You got the Atlanta Hawks and the New York Knicks tonight. Knicks 8-point favorites at home over the Hawks.
I like that. I'm going to take the Knicks and the points.
I'm going to take the Knicks in the money line. The Knicks, to me, recently have not been good against the spread, so I'm going to take them with the money line and play it safe.
Okay. All right.
Houston Rockets 2.5-point favorites over the Golden State Warriors.
I like the Warriors tonight.
I like the Rockets at home. Warriors played last night, didn't they?
I think these kind of games, Steph. I think these kind of games where you see the best of Steph. Steph Curry, Warriors tonight.
The Rockets are a very good young squad, though, Pretty. And that coach,
Yeah,
Emi Udoka's got them playing
yeah.
now. He's coaching them up. They're playing good ball. And they're at
They play
home,
really
so
good regular season ball. Yes, they do. Good regular. But this ain't the regular season. This is the NBA Cup. This is pressure ball. This with champions step up, and this with Steph steps his game up every time. I'm looking for Steph to go off tonight.
That's a great point, but I still like them young guns in Houston, man. Give me them young guns in Houston by 2.5.
All right, no problem. I see your girl did well last night. Juju Watkins at 21-7.
Juju is nasty. I just want to let you know I'm waiting patiently. I've already gotten permission from MJ. I could get the Juju Watkins jersey when she hit the WNBA. You could have the Angel Reese, but it ain't gonna be Caitlin Clark. I'll tell you that much.
I know what you mean.
but hey, props to the management team of Caitlin Clark. She actually put out a poster or a calendar, and she actually looks feminine. I was like, wow, they did a good job.
You stop it.
She's by getting married to her Iowa State boyfriend, so I mean she's all right.
There you go. That's a Cyclone wedding. That's a good stuff. Listen, I may mash Caitlin on the court because of the hype and all of that, and sometimes I think it's a little too much. But she does a lot of community work, and like I said, high school sweethearts getting married. It's a sweet love story. Good for them. They went to school all the way together, high school, Iowa State. Now they get married, and he's very supportive. I know how it is. When your wife is more popular than you have to know how to, play that role. I think she's done a great job.
Play the role. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, you should know how to do that. You should know how to do that pretty well.
All right, let's get to this phone call real quick before we get out of here, Pearly. Talking heads. All right. Well, Pearly, you holding things down tomorrow. You got any guests tomorrow?
Yeah, I should have Travis Robinson on with me tomorrow.
There you go. Travis is a good interview, man. He's been on the show several times before with me and MJ. Great interview, good stuff. And I'm interested to hear what he's got going on in his because I seen him making around. So let's see what he has to say and where.
That's our home, so that's why I want to ask him what's going on. What do you got planned for Fort Charlotte? And give us a little insight from the other side of what's going on within the House of Assembly.
There you go. Let's get this call real quick. These last two. Talking heads.
Hey, Nutty, what's up?
What's going on, brother?
Ready, man. Just calling to remind you that today is the anniversary of the greatest last fight in the Bahamas in 1981 against Trevor Bibick.
Oh, that's right.
Oh, yeah. Drama in Bahama?
That's right.
That's right.
That's a long time. I mean, he was...
But also, I also heard they're supposed to have a show this weekend at Bahama about... But I haven't got any much information on that boxing event this weekend. I don't know.
I've seen some stuff floating around, but I haven't seen anything concrete. But yeah, apparently there is supposed to be some matches at Bahama. We should have something for you on Friday to get you better informed.
Okay. Now the greatest is the greatest. Now tell me better.
All right, man. Be safe, man.
The greatest.
Take care, Quincy. Always good to hear from you, man. Let's get to the other call. Talking heads.
Hey, Nutty, I know that you didn't have a chance to do any sports because of the leader of the opposition. I listened to the entire show.
You enjoyed the interview?
Yeah, it was great. I want to say that I know you couldn't get into some terms, but I still need you to elaborate on that situation with Soto because I mentioned it briefly.
Yeah, well, apparently Soto, real in a nutshell, that one of the crux and one of the key elements why he didn't sign with the Yankees, he had 2 incidents with Yankee security involving his wife and his family. And I think that was kind of an issue for him. And the Yankees really should have stepped up, in my opinion. For $30 million, you go to 730, go to 760 and get it done and say sorry. But...
Yeah, I think they intended to sign the 760. The problem was that, in my opinion, because I've been watching Michael Key just for the last 2 months consistently. And it appears as if they decided that even if they tried to sign him at that rate, the owner of the Mets had such deep pocket they can just continue to escalate.
Yeah,
so I think that was based on what the information I got. That's one of the reasons why they didn't decided to go higher because they just continue. Because if a fella got $12 billion, you can't do nothing with his pocket.
No, but Steinbrenner got money too, though. But yeah, it was a battle of pockets. But we'll get into it. Pearly will touch on it tomorrow, and we'll get into it on Friday. All right, bro?
Okay, take care, man.
Have a good one. Be safe. Pearly, man, appreciate you chiming in. And I know you're going to hold things down tomorrow. For MJ, this is your boy Naughty. For everybody who chimed in, say good night, MJ.
Good afternoon. Good evening, everyone.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and
I
good
don't know
night.
what time it is. Yeah, bye, guys.
And everybody who chimed in, everybody who called in, texted in, good stuff, man. We're to be talking heads. And Purdy got you tomorrow, and we'll see you again right here on Friday for the Weekend Review. Keep it right where you got it. Be good, Bahamas, and if you can't be at it.
Why are you and your crew can go too well? Cause after we know under your colonial spell, and all those false doctrine that you compel. Hey, and all those books you stole away, all those kids you led astray. Wait on your judgment day. Bobby Rock, me bona fire.
It's that time of year again, and Colombian Emeralds International wants to show our appreciation to you, our valuable customers, with our annual Customers Appreciation Day sale. 50% plus an additional 15% off on Friday, December the 13th and Saturday, December the 14th from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. at their Rawson Square and Port Lucaya Freeport locations. There'll be prizes every hour. So come and celebrate this holiday season with some sparkle and give the gift of memories that will last a lifetime with Colombian Emeralds.
This KFC drip just won't quit. Step your flavor game up with the new KFC Saucy Nuggets. 100% real premium white meat nuggets, sauced in your choice of one of 5 KFC sauces: Korean barbecue, mango habanero, guava barbecue, stinging honey garlic, or signature barbecue. Do whatever the crunch you want with any of our new KFC Saucy Nuggets. 100% real, 100% a deal. Only available for a limited time at your favorite KFC. KFC Saucy Nuggets drip. It's finger-licking good.
Cancer Treatment Centers of America is now City of Hope, creating one of the leading cancer care and research networks from coast to coast, providing more of what you need. More locations means more care closer to home. More specialists means more expertise. More research means more breakthroughs. More advancements means more treatment options. Learn more at cancercenter.com.
John Shoes and Accessories is your one-stop shop for all your footwear needs. You will find what you're looking for among the growing collection of classic and trendy styles with new arrivals every week. John's covers the whole family and has great prices, helpful and friendly customer service. Your experience shopping with us will be time well spent. Shop with us online at www